Usually pre-show, I consider quitting comedy in general, and I will become an accordion player somewhere in Central America or even Florida. Throw it all away, you know.
Chris Fleming is a YouTube star and up-and-coming stand-up comedian. Fleming was chosen to perform at Lesley University's annual Spring Quad Fest.
Someone's leaving already. That's great. She decided last minute, not for me, not for me.
Getting a gig on the small liberal arts school comedy circuit isn't all that different from getting into a small liberal arts school. It's a rigorous process led by these people, bookers who specialize not just in finding comedians, but often in finding comedians willing to make a few compromises.
So if people come to perform on campus, they come through you.
And we just make experiences for students. We bring in performers, comedians, musicians.
It seems fairly straightforward, but the reason we're here is because it's not.
It's not
totally
straightforward, not at all.
Anytime we put our label or anytime we put our name on an event, it is now an extension of the entire campus climate that we're trying to create.
What a comedian does on our campus isn't the same that they would do at an open mic at the bar a few hours later.
Why not?
Why? Because a student would respond.
Hello, Leslie. That sounded like I was speaking to a jilted ex-wife. Hello, just in time.
The kids that I'm programming for are not cis het dudes. And we intentionally program towards that because it's what the students want. And when I'm working on a contract, especially with a comedian, I'm very upfront and saying, you know, transphobic language isn't going to be tolerated. If you say something in your set, like, we reserve the right in our contract to, like, have a conversation with you about payment. And I will also pull the microphone.
You would stop the show and remove them from campus for a bad joke.
This would have to be a pretty terrible joke, right? But at the same time, I knew that this comic had a bit that they made light out of sexual assault. I would either completely ask them to remove that from the set, or we just wouldn't book them. And that's happened before, where we've been looking at female comics.
Even if it was the female comic's own experience.
I would never book a comic that made jokes about sexual assault because I know a lot of my students have experienced it.
We've had a situation where we've been very deep and almost ready to completely book with this individual. Found a clip online where she does a set and there's an off thing about sexual assault, and it was actually the students who said, you know what, no, let's find somebody else. My number one priority in my job is also to reduce student harm as much as humanly possible.
You think people are harmed by jokes?
I think they can be.
My parents are always like, Chris, how did you end up the way that you did? Well, maybe if you hadn't dressed me like a bisexual poacher. Look at that old, ruthless queen right there.
Are students allowed to be offended by a joke? And are comedians allowed to push that envelope on a college campus when we're paying you to deliver a service? So what is that line between freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and you're doing a job?
What do you see that difference to be?
I can talk about my experience, but I can't make fun of someone else's identity.
18 to 21-year-olds now are more diverse than they have ever been. We're just conduits for their voice, so if they don't want it, then we're not going to book it.
They don't speak with one voice, do they?
We have all different types of students, but they talk to us. And I do think that with the diverse voices coming into us, they're just
It's rather odd
the
to hear you
people
say
who've
that diverse
historically-
voices that all say the same thing.
Well, you
doesn't
also
seem very
diverse
to me.
in the way that is respect me and my identity and my experience. And there's just more experiences now. And if you can't adapt, to get out.
Good night, everybody. Thank you very much. Judy Gold is one of many famous comics, including Jerry Seinfeld and Chris Rock, who say they avoid playing college campuses because they believe younger audiences can't take a joke.
Judy Gold is the best comedian in the world.
Give it up for Judy Gold, everybody!
Anyway, what's going on? Trump's doing a good job, isn't he? You know, let me tell you how my life has changed since that orange fuckface became president, okay?
You can do jokes about anything if the jokes are funny.
What do you make of that argument that there are people in the audience who might have gone through these traumatic events, and if a male comic is up there making jokes about rape, that can re-traumatize them?
Get up and leave. Why is that everyone has to adjust to everyone else? Don't hire me if you don't want to hear what I have to say.
But what if they want to hear what you have to say, but they say, don't do these jokes?
Too bad.
You want to take the gig?
No, I mean, it depends on the money.
I happen to be also a member of the LGBTQ or STUVWXYZ community. I don't know. Every week there was another initial. I can't take it. I recently, do you know what I is? Someone said it. Intersex, that's right. Intersexed, intersectional, they call it. Do you know what that is? That is when you buy a sofa.
Give me a sense of what you make of it when people say, Judy, that joke is harmful to me as a trans person, as somebody who's a member of the LGBTQ community.
Right. The joke is not about you. You need to learn how to be in this world. The world doesn't have to adjust for you. So figure that out. This idea that words are more harmful than actions. Lenny Bruce is rolling over in his grave. Richard Pryor. They're rolling over. You don't tell a comic what topics they can discuss on stage. I mean, it's ridiculous. When people tell me not to do something, it makes me want to do it.
You want to get really mad at me? Do you want to get really mad at it? Should I do it? Should I do it? You're going to get so pissed off. All right. You're going to get really pissed off and hate me. All right. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is so gross that even Larry Nassar was like, I don't care if your back hurts. Okay, yes.
Unhinged bisexual runs rampant at Leslie. Okay, stop, no. You just heard bisexual, you're not even listening to me. Stop!
I mean, isn't comedy supposed to be the thing that triggers you, right? People, comics themselves, work out their own traumas on stage, right? And they might be sharing those in a funny way.
Oh yeah, it's therapy. And you know, when I've done stand-up, I talk about my mom, God bless her. But that's with the purpose of creating discomfort or telling jokes about my own experience. That's not hurt.
When this walks into the gas station, it gets a lot of...
Leslie's really good about telling you if there's something that could potentially trigger you in any way, shape, or form, so that if they do a talk or a speech about certain things, they will tell you if there is stuff that could possibly make you uncomfortable.
Coming to school is a safe place. Being home or being on the street, you just never know what's going to happen, and when I'm here, I feel safe and accepted and welcomed.
This market's not for all of them, and if they don't want to be a part of it, who cares? Go and do you, because someone is going to want to perform on our campus.
Free market.
We need them, they need our money, they need us to espouse their brand.
Thank you, good night.